Hi guys, Sarah here and welcome to Novel Expectations. Today I'm coming to you with my 15th weekly wrap-up of 2016. So this week I actually got finished 2 books, but let's jump right into how I'm doing on my challenges first. So according to Goodreads, I am 3 books ahead of schedule, which is fantastic. For my A to Z Authors Challenge, I have now completed 14 out of 26 authors. For my A to Z Titles Challenge, I am still at 14 out of 26 authors, which is the same, or titles, which is the same as I was last week. For my 2016 How Many Pages goal, I have read 8,576 pages out of 25,000 pages, which puts me at about roughly 34% complete, so that's pretty good. And for my Jelly Belly Jelly Bean Challenge, still no flavors completed. So, let's jump right into the books that I finished reading. So the first one was actually an audiobook, and it was called She Did a Bad, Bad Thing by Stephanie Bond. This is a Harlequin Blaze novel, and it is the first novel in the $1 Million Secret series. This is a series that was actually written, co-written by a number of different authors. So each book is written by a different author, and I do want to continue on and read the rest of the series, because this one was really cute. It was published in 2007, and it was narrated by Gabra Zachman, who did a really good job, and I was quite happy with the narration for this novel. I gave this book 3 stars. Let me explain why. When I read Harlequin Blaze novels, which tend to be quite a bit spicier than most romance novels, or erotica novels, or anything like that, where they tend to be a lot more spicier than the norm, I try and read them without the sex, if that makes any sense. What I'm saying is that if you took the sex out of those books, how would the story hold up on its own? Or is the relationship, is that physical relationship needed to carry on the story? So let's start out with the plot of this novel. So the story is about a woman by the name of Jane and her neighbor Perry and their relationship. So the book starts out, Jane works as a makeup artist for a local television station, and she is kind of a plain Jane. Out of their group of friends, she was never the wild one. She was always the quiet one, the studious one. And, you know, she lives a pretty, for her, a happy life. You know, she has her job, she has her family, she has her friends. And one day she comes home from work, after having a particularly not so great day, to find a little red sports car parked in her parking spot. So she goes upstairs to her new neighbor's apartment and knocks on the door, and this petite little blonde answers the door. And it turns out it's her car because she's visiting her friend Perry, who is the guy who lives next door. He's a lawyer. And he pretty much tells her, you know, sorry, it won't happen again. So she goes and parks in the visitors parking. And anyway, over the course of that evening, she overhears Perry and his friend having relations, let's put it that way, through the walls. So she goes over and confronts them and says pretty much, you know, could you keep it down? So she goes back over to her apartment and she decides to go on the balcony and have a glass of wine. And then she overhears Perry and his friend talking about, you know, how mousy she is and how boring she is and, you know, what a stick in the mud she is. And she gets really upset by that. So the next morning when she's leaving her apartment, she's been crying all night because she was upset. And he sees her and he kind of notices. And then he starts to feel bad about, you know, the comments that he made about her. So he wants to make it up to her. So when she gets down to her car that was still parked in visitors parking, she finds out that there's now a ding in the door and one of her tires rolled over, I guess, a nail or something, and, you know, she had to get her tire replaced. So as the day wears on, you find out more about Perry, that he's not the jerk that you immediately think he is. He's been having a rough go of it as well, and what have you, and he really does feel bad about the things that he said about Jane. So, unbeknownst to him, though, at that same time, Jane and her friends find out that they win the lottery, which is the whole basis of this series of books. Of these 6 books is how each of these different characters deals with this lottery win. So Jane decides that she is going to go and have a wild weekend, and she's going to head to Vegas. Well, she tells Perry, and he's kind of thinking, well, is she doing this because of what I said about her? So he follows her to Vegas, and there the relationship begins. And there's where my issues with this book begin. Leading up to that point, I thought, okay, Perry's going to redeem himself somehow because you know he's going to be the hero of this book, and she's going to end up with him. But if within the first 2 chapters he's already sleeping with somebody else, I kind of have a problem with that. Because that's like, for example, on a Thursday, and on the Saturday they're in Vegas doing the same thing. Yeah, no, that doesn't fly for me, especially after what he said. I don't care how good he says or you think he is in bed. No man is worth it, him telling you things, or not telling you, but saying things like that behind your back. Or sleeping with some petite little blonde not 2 days before. Like, come on. The other thing that really bothered me is that Jane felt the need to change her appearance. She had long, as she called it, mousy brown hair. She cut all of her hair off and dyed it platinum blonde and bought all these new clothes. And, you know, that's when he starts to notice her. Well, is he noticing you because of your personality or because of the way you look? Now, I know these books are not meant to be at all written by or read by younger girls, but still, women in their 20s, late teens, early 20s who might pick these up can still be very impressionable. Even women in their 30s and 40s can still be very impressionable. And I don't like the fact that you're condoning that you need to look and or act a certain way to get a man. That really bothered me too. But, as I said at the beginning, taking the sex out of these stories, they were a good story. There were the few little things that bothered me. You know, I wish that Perry didn't have had to have been sleeping with that woman at the very beginning of the book. If, you know, maybe they were just visiting or something like that, and there were comments made, maybe his TV had been too loud, and that's why she came over to complain, and the fact that she needed to change her appearance. Now, I'm all for putting on a bit of makeup and, you know, putting on a pretty dress. That's totally different. But to completely change the way you're looking and acting for somebody, no, that doesn't fly in my book. So the second book that I finished this week is Flawless by Heather Graham. I was actually going to do a full-on review of this book for you guys at the end of the week, but after reading it, decided that I liked it, but it didn't blow me away, so I didn't feel the need to do a full review for this. But I am, of course, going to do a review for you guys right here. So the plotline in this book is about a woman named Kiernan who works at her local family's pub in New York City named Finnegan's, and the pub is run by her oldest brother Declan, and her twin brother Kevin and youngest brother Danny all work there. But the other three have other jobs as well, and she is also a criminal psychologist by day, bartender by night. Anyway, the book opens up with her youngest brother Danny and her best friend Julie going into cahoots together to borrow this diamond from Julie's soon-to-be ex-husband's, from the store that he works at, the jewelry store. There's been a rash of jewelry thieves going on in the area, but nothing major has happened. Pretty much just the stores have been robbed. Well, then these jewel thieves seem to have stepped up a game because now they're actually murdering witnesses as well. So Julie goes back to this jewelry store because she wants to return the diamond because she knows that her brother and best friend could get in a lot of trouble if it's found out that they took this diamond. So her whole plan was to go into the store, look very nonchalant, try and drop it out of her pocket, and then notice it on the floor and point it out to one of the staff. Well, before she gets a chance to do all that, these jewel thieves come into the store and pretty much are pulling a holdup. So they drag her out of the back of the store with them as a hostage and throw her in the back of the van. Well, during that time, I guess a wire had been tripped or something, and the FBI were alerted. And they arrive on the scene, and Special Agent Craig Fraser jumps into the back of the van with Kiernan and the robbers, and they pretty much stop everything from happening, and the four of them get arrested. The jewel thieves get arrested. So then they find out that there are actually two different sets of jewel thieves working in New York City. And the group that were arrested were not the ones who were killing people. So the killers are still out on the loose. So pretty much that's where the story goes from there. Kiernan's life is at risk because it is known that she was the one who can possibly identify the other group. Because again, she's a criminal psychologist. So she is good at reading people and stuff like that. And when she was looking at the two different sets of surveillance videos, she noticed that it was distinctly two different groups of people. So now the second group is pretty much out to get her. And the FBI, Craig Fraser in particular, is there to keep her safe. It was a really cute story. There were a lot of characters in this book. That's the one thing that I did find, was there were a lot of characters. But Heather Graham writes fantastic characters. The plot line was really quick and kept moving. It actually got to the point where I was surprised. I was looking going, oh my gosh, I'm already 75% of my way through this. I mean, the plot just moves so quickly, and it's so fast-paced, and it's really, really great. There's always action. There's always something going on. The romance between Kiernan and Craig is really, really sweet. You know, and it is joked about in the book that they've only known each other less than a week. But it wasn't the whole insta-love thing. There was no I love yous exchange between the two of them, which I felt very refreshing. You knew, and I'm not giving anything away, this is a romantic suspense novel. You know the two of them are going to end up together. But at the end, it wasn't one of those, oh, we're going to be together forever. But it was just kind of on to the next logical step in the relationship, which I thought was really, really refreshing and really great. This was a standalone novel, which is something that Heather Graham actually doesn't write a lot of. She writes a lot of stuff that's based in series. But this was a really, really great book. If you've never read Heather Graham and you kind of want to get into her, I suggest maybe starting with this one because, again, it is a standalone novel, so you don't have to feel like you're committing to an entire series. So those are the books that I finished this week. So the two books that I'm currently reading, I am currently listening to The Winter Lodge by Susan Wiggs. This is the second book in the Lakeshore Chronicles series, and I have about 10 hours left in this book, and I'm really enjoying it. And the one I just started yesterday is The Bachelor Girl's Guide to Murder by Rachel McMillan. This is about two friends in Toronto in 1910, and it's a very Sherlock-esque type novel. And so far, I'm really enjoying it. I don't want to say too much about it. I'll talk more about it in my wrap-up next week. So anyway, guys, that's everything I've read and everything I'm currently reading. Let me know in the comments below what you're currently reading or whether you have read any of these books and what you thought about them. And until next time, guys, take care and happy reading. Bye.